This is Mad Movie Mark with another Mad Movie Mark movie review. Today I will be doing the 2011 baseball movie Moneyball, which is about the 2002 Oakland Athletics. This is a movie that stars Brad Pitt as Billy Beane, Jonah Hill as Peter Brand, Chris Pratt as Scott Hatteberg, and Phillip Seymour Hoffman as Art Howell. The baseball lockout did happen a couple days ago, depending on when you're watching this movie. But as this, when you're watching this review. But as of this review being shot and released, it happened a few days ago. First baseball lockout since the 1990s, where baseball kind of fell off a cliff after that and was saved by Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa and their race towards breaking the home run record. But that's here and there. That's not anything about. That's just a tangent. So this movie follows the 2002 Oakland Athletics and their battle, their will, their desire to remain mediocre in the eyes of baseball, basically. So this takes place after the 2001 season, where the Oakland A's made it to the playoffs, but could not beat the Yankees to advance to the World Series. After the season ended, they lost a lot of their big players, Johnny Damon, Jason Giambi. They lost because they were playing in a smaller market and they could not afford to keep the players. They went on to bigger teams, signed bigger contracts. So essentially the Oakland Athletics are left in a situation where they are a small market team. They are not able to financially replace these two players that they lost, and they're trying to figure out a way to compete and to presumably go to the playoffs again and beat the Yankees, go to the playoffs, go to the World Series, and win a World Series as a small market team. So Brad Pitt plays Billy Beane in this movie, and at first he is trying to replace these players with big bats that he lost. But then kind of by chance, he meets Jonah Hill, who plays Peter Brand in this movie, that's not his real name. This is based on a true story, but that's not the guy's real name in real life. So Peter Brand has devised this mathematical way to judge players based on how often they get on base and not how many home runs they hit, not how many RBIs they hit. Which is basically how they were judged before. You want a power hitter, you get someone who can hit home runs. So they were kind of a small ball mentality that he basically discovered. When Billy Beane finds out about this, he immediately hires Peter Brand, and he says, I want you to come on my team, and I want you to show me the system. I want you to get players that we can afford. We may not be able to replace these players, but we can at least get the stats that we need to compete. So they end up signing Scott Hatteberg. They sign Jeremy Giambi, which is Jason Giambi's brother. They sign David Justice, and they also sign Chad Bradford. So David Justice was a big player in the late 90s, early 90s. He was a power hitter who was kind of at the end of his career, and not a lot of teams wanted him because he was getting older. He kind of lost his speed. He was a big stolen base guy. He was a fast player. And a lot of teams thought he just didn't have it anymore. Scott Hatteberg is a player who was a catcher who basically couldn't throw anymore because of an injury. So a lot of teams kind of left him out to dry. Also, Jeremy Giambi was a great hitter, but he was a party animal. He got in trouble a lot. He got suspended a lot. A lot of teams just didn't want to put up with him and put up with his antics. And then Chad Bradford is what we call a submarine pitcher. I don't think that they mentioned that. Well, they mentioned that he has an awkward way to pitch, but he's a submarine pitcher. And usually they're thought to not last that long when they throw that way. It's kind of an awkward motion, and their careers don't normally last as long. So these were all kind of the island of misfit toys type of players, where they were just kind of left to dry. And no one wanted them. So these were the players that Brand said that they should pick up. So they picked them up. And the goal was to fill the holes that they needed to to get to the playoffs and to eventually win a World Series. The movie kind of depicts these players as the players that are going to catapult them to what they need to do. These are the kind of the meat and bones of the team, and this is how they're going to win. So at first, Art Howell will not play these players because he was at the end of his contract, the last year of his contract, and they refused to sign him to another year, or at least they hadn't yet. And he felt that this was a sign that they weren't going to keep him. So he wanted to kind of pad his resume the best way he can by playing the most logical players that he could play. And this lineup to him did not seem logical. So he played other players such as Carlos Pena at first base. He was their all-star, kind of the player that they would have for the longevity. You know, they were the franchise player for them. So he decided to play him at first base instead of Hatterberg. This did not go well for the team. The team lost a lot of games, really came out of the gate really slow and poor. And this just infuriated Billy Beane because he said, if the system's going to work, then you have to play the players that I want you to play. He still refused to play them, so like any rational manager would do, Billy Beane just starts trading all these franchise players that he could possibly have. He trades Carlos Pena. He ends up getting rid of Jeremy Giambi because the other scouts were correct in that Jeremy Giambi is kind of a partier and that he is just not going to fit on this team. So they end up forcing Art Howell's hand at playing the players that they want to play. So once this happens, they end up going on this big win streak. They win 20-something games in a row. They break the record for how many games are won in a row. And then the movie just kind of, after the win streak ends, you kind of see like some text on the screen that tells you that they went to the playoffs. They did not go to the World Series. The Angels went to the World Series and won the World Series in 2002. My team, Anaheim Angels. And that's pretty much the movie in a nutshell. So if I'm just going to give this movie a review, just based on the movie alone, it has basically all the parts in the movie that you would want. It has drama. It has an underdog team. Not only an underdog team, but it has underdog players in the team. Hatterberg, Justice, Bradford. These are all players that you can get behind and root for. You want them to do well because they were kind of left out to dry. You're rooting for them to do well. You're rooting for Billy Beane to kind of prove that the system works. You're rooting for Jonah Hill because, Peter Brand, because this is something that could really change baseball and how players are signed, how teams are formed. So this has really what you want in a sports movie. Also, my fiance loves this movie, and a lot of people I know who don't like baseball love this movie. I think a lot of it has to do because it's an underdog story, because it has, Brad Pitt, Jonah Hill, Chris Pratt. They're all very lovable people who have a huge following. Phillip Seymour Hoffman, who, honestly, out of all these actors, he's probably my favorite. I think he's the best actor out of the bunch. And it also does not have a lot of baseball scenes. So it's a lot of the behind the scenes negotiations, player interactions. There's only, if I remember right, there's only one really big pivotal baseball scene, and that's when Hatterberg hits the home run to tie the all-time winning record or beat the all-time winning record. I don't remember, but that's the only real scene, and it's filmed very much how the scene actually played out in real life, and it's such a powerful moment because it's really a time where you can stand up and cheer, and this team of misfits of nobodies got as far as they did, and Moneyball worked, right? Maybe I'll talk about that after the movie review. But this basically has everything you would want in a movie, in a sports movie. Like I said, it has a very big following of people who don't even like baseball. So I got to give it credit for that. Out of a 10, I'm probably gonna stick I'm gonna stick with eight. I'll go with an 8 out of 10. It's not my favorite sports movie of all time. It's not my favorite baseball movie of all time. But it has a lot of the parts that you could love in a movie, in a sports movie, and it's very well acted. I don't like the ending. So we can get into the kind of the baseball section of this movie, and why personally I think this movie lies. Personally, it's great. It's a great Hollywood type of movie, but it's not fully based on reality. That's what I'll say. In my opinion, what knowledge I have of baseball, I'm not a baseball whiz. I'm not some guy who knows everything about baseball, but my knowledge of baseball will tell me that this movie is not correct, and this system did not change baseball the way they thought it would. And this movie, I think, kind of reflects that, because at the end, it's just like, okay, we're done, because they really didn't go any farther than they had before. Yes, they did it with a smaller salary, a smaller, than they had before. But I mean, in all honesty, they ended up getting rid of a franchise player. I mean, a player that should have been a franchise player, and they signed a couple people for a couple of years to do exactly what they could have done before. But anyway, I'll give it an 8. So my kind of breakdown of what I know about baseball and why this lies to people. So in 2002, the Oakland A's had basically the blueprint of what you need not only to go to a playoff, but to win a World Series, and they had it without these players. They had the AL MVP, which is Miguel Tejada, and they had the AL Cy Young Award winner, which is Barry Zitto. They also had two other pitchers that were very close to being Cy Young caliber pitchers, and that was Tim Hudson and Mark Mulder, which is basic. I mean, at that moment, so you don't really hear a lot about Mark Mulder. I mean, Tim Hudson went on to play for the Braves. Mark Mulder retired shortly after. I think he had a career with the Cardinals. But he was injured at some point. He couldn't really play that well anymore. Barry Zito went and had a career with the Giants, I believe. But they're not household names. But at that moment in time, they were basically like Maddox, Smoltz, Glavine of that time. They were honestly that good. And I remember this. I remember the Oakland A's at that time. And these were very, very great pitchers. And normally to win a World Series, you need a Cy Young caliber pitcher, you need an MVP caliber bats, and then you need at least another pitcher that's Cy Young caliber, which is what they had. And this is why in 2002 they did as well as they did. Um, David Justice, Hatteberg, Bradford, sure. I mean, they contributed to this team, but the Moneyball system is not why. This is not why they got to the playoffs. This is not why they did as well as they did. It's because they had those four players. They had Zito, Mulder, Hudson, and Tejada. And I think they're purposely left out of this movie and out of the book because it just doesn't fit the narrative that they want you to believe. And in fact, in 2002, when the Angels won the World Series, they played small ball. They got on base, they stole a base, they were fast, they were a tough team, but not because of. I mean, they had Tim Salmon, I believe, but they didn't have a lot of big bats. They were just a scrappy team that won the World Series. And even if you look back, I think the Marlins won the World Series after that. They were a brand new team that won the World Series, and then dismantled their team afterwards because they couldn't afford the players that they had. But I mean, look back at the previous World Series from like the last 5 or 6 years. I mean, who do you remember? You remember the Dodgers, probably you remember Houston. I think the Cubs were in there a couple times. The Braves won this year. I think Tampa Bay was in there last year, but you don't see a lot of Moneyball teams out there anymore. It's still very high salary teams that are performing and winning. Uh, and in my personal opinion, Moneyball. I mean, there are a few teams here and there with small salaries that are able to do stuff like this, but it's just not a formula for a winning team. And I don't think Moneyball really worked. And even to this day, the Oakland Athletics don't have not had a World Series win since that. I don't think they've had a World Series appearance since Moneyball came out. Um, so as a movie, it's a great movie. And like it checks all the boxes for what you would want in a movie. But it's just, in my opinion, it's just not a formula that works. And it's a movie that, without knowing the Oakland Athletics, without knowing what they had that year and how they actually won, if you can forget all that and just judge it on movie, it's a really good movie. So I'll give it an 8 out of 10. And yeah, so that is my Moneyball review. Hopefully, if anyone out there decides to watch this for some reason, I hope you enjoy it. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.